That's how we own it.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the General.
And we are your hosts of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. We've got a great show today. There's so much content that I can't argue with you about, like the 25 issues that I have that I'm, not feeling you about and your opinions. So today you actually escaped a good one, because I'm like, I don't know, I ain't feeling you on some stuff you be saying.
I mean, that's the norm. So, we ain't gonna get into our usually back and forth, how we usually get it in, but we're gonna talk about that a little later. Maybe next episode, I tear you up like I usually do.
I think we should do a specific interview on all the things that we don't agree on.
Yeah, I'll be tearing you up and you uppercut.
But it's good to be on. Listen, new year, 2022, I'm all about just positivity, just clear the air, make it strong. Whatever we're in, let's do it and do it well. And we are, really looking at how Street Politicians as a brand is going to become even stronger and become even more of a cultural influence. It looks like there are, folks who are invested in us rebranding. And we're thinking through what that's going to look like. So I'm happy to, but it's still, no matter what we call it, it's still going to be me and you not agreeing on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we don't agree. That might be the show. We don't agree. Tamika and my son don't agree.
Because we agree a lot more.
We agree for the most part, but we just don't.
We come at it from two different perspectives.
That's it.
I think so. So it's a lot happening, Mice. I mean, you've got issues like Rikers Island in New York is a big issue. It's like, it's so much for us to get back to work on. Rikers Island is an issue. Voting rights is still an issue. No George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I mean, there are so many different things happening. And I think one of the things that we as the social justice movement, we have to take a step back and look at how we're approaching all of that. And so today we're talking a lot about racism in America. It's still a real thing. It's 2022. Don't think that, we left that in 21, that we had some convictions. We're still in a society and a time where racism is alive and well. And we're starting to really talk about what steps do we need to take, like aggressive steps to gather our people and begin to educate ourselves and do more collectively to make a change. So I'm really, really optimistic and excited. There's an energy about this new time that we're in, that even though it still might be a little difficult, I think we're actually people. I hear it and I see the energy within my friends, within our friends, the people we work with, where folks are like, let's go.
Yep, I think we had a lot of rest. Everybody's been resting throughout the holidays, and I think people realize we got to get back to work. Like you said, there's so many different issues going on out here, man. My main thing is just this violence in the streets that, a week ago, 14, 15 young teenagers just got swept up in indictments from everything from murder to racketeering and all these things. And I really do not want to continue to see these young boys just throwing their lives away, man. So that's really what this boycott Black murder thing is really a focus of mine, man, because I really think that we have to impact. And in order to impact, we have to really go to our communities and sit down and iron out and pull the weeds back and be able to have hard conversations and be able to have the kids cuss us out and come back even after they cuss us out, and not just be like, you know what, they don't listen. Like we don't have the right or the opportunity to sit back and just allow this continue to go on like it is. So, that's where I really want to focus on. But there's so much.
There's so much. And I think we should really be thinking about interviewing some of the district attorneys from across the country that are dealing with this gun violence issue. And a lot of them are trying not to prosecute certain low-level offenses so that but also shifting these young people into programs so that they can deal with at-risk youth. So all of that, and how we work unconventional, non-traditional ways and methods of saving our young people is so important. And I know that that's what Boycott Black Murder is all about. So there's a lot that can be done with street politicians. And so, my thought of the day today, after sitting for the last week, leading up to January 6th, now we're a week later after January 6th, and we watched all of this coverage about the insurrection. Every which way you turn, they were talking insurrection. And then President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, they went somewhere, and the vice president was the speaker, and they talked about all of these things, the criminal acts of those people who participated in trying to overthrow the government, and what the insurrection means. And President Barack Obama put out a statement, powerful stuff. Why is it? I'm just trying to understand. Or let me not even ask why, because I already know why. To me, it is a waste of time to talk especially for elected officials, to speak about the insurrection and focus just on those, individuals who were there, who participated, and not call for the prosecution of people who are in government, who were a part of it. So if you're not taking the time to, when you're standing, Vice President Harris, President Obama, why not say there are congressional members who opened the doors of the Capitol, basically gave people tours, knew what they were doing. They knew what these people were doing. They need to be prosecuted. So what is the problem with, I don't know if it's the Democrats or just the way politics work, and maybe I need to be re-educated, but it feels so disingenuous to me to listen to these people make powerful speeches and they say all these things, but not place the blame squarely on individuals who are elected. A crazy person who's running up the side of the wall, yeah, that person needs to be prosecuted. But what's more important is who powered that behavior. Who is behind, who is responsible for why that person thought it was okay? And there are congressional members and people who are in the Senate, and there are members of the House who incited a riot. We already know we have, of course, Donald Trump, but we've dealt with that. That is what it is. But there's lower hanging fruit that I don't even hear them talking about. So my thought of the day today is like, am I bugging that I feel like all the speeches that were made, all the statements they put out last week should have culminated with a call for accountability for people who were elected to office that are basically committing treason on this country, when you sit and know that there are people who want to destroy the foundation of our nation and you do nothing about it or help to aid to make it happen.
I mean, you're not bugging, but that's not the conversation that people want to have. You look at government right now and see how it's torn, how it is bipartisan, how the government is trying to be ran bipartisanly, and people are comfortable with talking about Trump and the old administration, but not talking about current people who actually contributed to those things, right? Because they want to get some type of support from them. They want to make it seem like we're trying to do something different. They don't want to call out, their colleagues right now, because we're in a state where it's damn sure it's like a standoff. So this administration strategy for success entails being cool with those same people who actually contributed to that reality. So at this point, they can't even call him out because he already got Manchin who done said, fuck y'all. And then when he's pretty much on their side, and you got Sinema, you got all these people. So they cannot continue to wage all of these wars because they don't even have a strategy to do it. They don't have a strategy to hold anybody accountable. America has never been about holding white people accountable. If you look at the tens of thousands of people that ain't even got tickets, and I seen the thing where they posted, a guy said he got 10 years for being a lookout, And these people would never spend a day in jail for crimes that we
Marlon Peterson. That was Marlon Peterson. That's our guy who said that.
Marlon Peterson. So when you look at the reality of that, right? When you look at during the George Floyd protests, people were out there getting 5 years and 10 years and all type of shit for protesting against injustice. And these people who stormed the Capitol are not even going to jail. When you look at that reality,
some of them are.
Some of them, but it's a handful. There's a handful.
Right.
Because exactly. Literally, not even like when you say a handful, it's literally a handful of people.
It might be 20 people. I don't know. We haven't done the numbers, but it certainly isn't the thousands
exactly
that were there.
Exactly. So when you understand that reality, then you understand what America's built on. Then you understand what this administration said it can do and what it's trying to do and the strategy that is utilizing to try to do it. Then you understand that, of course, they can't do that. They can't continue to make more enemies. The administration they lost right now. They're like, damn, we thought we had we can't continue to make more and more enemies. Even though it's on the side of justice, even though we know it's the right thing to do, we got to try to win some of them over. So politics is a fucked up thing. The politics is fucked up. Politics itself is a bunch of bullshit. You got to deal with this. You got to take this. You got to compromise a bunch of shit. And when you don't know that, right? When you're just looking from the outside and you're just looking in, you're like, damn, I don't get it. Fuck all that. But when you start to really realize it's not designed for us. Politics is not designed for us, people of color, people who are living in poverty, who live in communities of color. It's not really designed to benefit us. We are the things that are used to fuel it. So we are the ones that's going over.
But two things can exist at the same time. It's not designed for us. However, we have to exercise our political power because
and that's what we have to.
Because really on the outside.
It's not designed for us. So it's like we have to continue to take it over from it. And that's why that's why understanding how important voting is. Mm-hmm. Voting is important because you continue to rip away fibers of it by putting new people with new ideas that can challenge old structures and challenge old laws and old concepts, constantly putting something that says, you know what, this law don't really make sense. I want to implement this. This doesn't really make sense. I want to implement this. So that's why voting is important. You're not going to just completely change the structure, but gradually what you do is you create something new from the inside. You're not going to tear it up because you're yelling at the building saying, yo, I don't fuck that. I don't want to know. You have to go in and take shit out and say, yo, we're going to throw this away. We're going to throw this away. We're going to build this infrastructure. We're going to rebuild this room piece by piece.
And that's what it is. And I think in Minnesota, we saw an example of that by having, Keith Ellison to be elected as Attorney General. Now you have Lee Merritt running for Attorney General in Texas. We got to put people, and by the way, those are some high level positions. We got Shaniqua Charles running for Assembly in New York City. In New York State, you have Jumaane Williams running for governor. So some people, it's like, how can he be governor? Why not? Why can't he be governor? So we do have to make sure that while you, like you said, you tear down and build up at the same time, but you never divest and just completely walk away from systems that we actually function as part of. So I think those things, all of these things matter. And that's what really we've got to stay focused. And today we are focused. So you tell us who we're about to interview.
So as promised, today we have with us our resident brand expert, LaToya Bond. She's going to be doing a full recap of some of our best small businesses throughout the year. LaToya, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see y'all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I like that sweater. Where's that from?
Thank you, Black Queen, as I am.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did that sweater come from? That's one of
this sweater is actually from one of our small Black businesses, Black Women's Lives Matter. Our homegirl Jamila T. Davis has a lot of bomb sweatshirts. Make sure y'all get one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I need a Black King one. Get us some black, because we need some men stuff up here.
We need some real energy on this show.
Some real energy.
We trying though, Mice. We trying.
I'm working on it, man. We gotta get listen. We need Toya. We got to get some Black men, some men up here to give us some good products, some small because they out there.
I agree.
Yeah, so
I agree.
that's my goal. My goal this year is to find more men-friendly topics because all y'all run everything. Y'all got all the clothes. Y'all got all the topics. Y'all be jumping me up here, every week. So I'm gonna try to make this a little more men up here.
Yeah, maybe one of the topics could be like, why is it so hard to find the male, Black-owned male businesses? Because the women, you go on Instagram, they're like, boom, 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 pow, bing bong.
Bing
You
bong.
gotta look for the male. You gotta go search them, hashtag them. So, Mike, you're gonna help us do better with that in 22.
That's my goal, man. So, Toya, we know that you are a resident brand expert, but let the people know, like, what do you do in totality? Tell them how much of a Black queen you actually are.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I love that too. Okay, my name is LaToya Bond. I am a brand strategist. I help women mainly and some men build seven-figure brands. Whether that brand is a tangible brand or it's a service-based brand or it's a person that is a brand. And I do that through a system that I like to call an AIS model, which is authority, influence, and strategy. So we make a strategy to help them build authority in a niche, and then we use that authority to build influence, and then you monetize that influence, which helps you build a seven-figure brand.
Oh, okay. And you smart. You smart too.
And I'm smart.
Right.
You are smart, and certainly you have worked with me for the last 7 years. How long have we been working together?
It's been a long time. We've been working together since I think 2016. Like officially before the Women's March.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. And then at some point you acquired Mysonne, and so many people around. We all come to you for business ideas, for you to be our liaison to work with people, because especially for me, I either won't ask or don't want to be bothered. Like, just because I have the fear of not wanting to ask for money, the fear of what people will say when I demand pay for compensation for my time, for my ideas, for my energy. And working with you, that's been one thing that we have conquered together, is that no, if you're going to be a part of a project and there is money in the project, I should actually be compensated, because too many of our Black leaders have died without resources, without money. And we said, we do not, subscribe to that model. We do not accept that.
Yeah, we ain't doing the poor righteous teacher shit. That's not us.
You're not doing that.
Exactly. And being compensated well. If you're part of a project that's generating millions, billions of dollars, you're the main talent, or even one of the main talents, you should be compensated well for that project. And there's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing that you should feel guilty about that. And then the other thing is being able to monetize some of your influence and reach and create a business for yourself and your family. You're a mom, you have parents that are aging that you're going to have to take care of. You need to be able to have an income so you can take care of your family. And there's nothing that you should feel guilty about ever.
Absolutely.
I've been trying to tell her that for years. I'm glad you got it.
Or period, like the young people would say.
On period.
On period.
So tell us about these businesses that we watch this video. We see all the businesses that you bring to us every week. We're soliciting others to send us their businesses, and we always say make sure it's a real business, like, because some of our people, they say they got a business but they want you to cash app them for the product. Like, no, we need ACH. you need a bank account, you need all of your information in order so you could really, so we can really actually support. So talk about some of these businesses. You don't have to talk about all of them, but a few of the brands that we saw.
Okay, so I will say, first of all, this started from you and Mysonne as an extension of your activism, because you wanted to make sure that we highlighted Black businesses, because when we're talking about a path to Black people getting ahead, entrepreneurship and building wealth is one of the main ways that we're going to be able to build power in this country. And then using your platform to be able to highlight some of these small businesses is one way that you guys can give back, and that you do choose to give back. So we have a few businesses that we've highlighted over the years. I'll talk about some of them. One of them is called Just Breathe. The owner's name is Precious Avoklia Evans. And that brand is mainly about mental wellness and self-care, which is something that we talk about a lot and that we all subscribe to. And it's a box that basically help people meditate. You know, it helps you feel comfortable meditating, because a lot of people think that meditation and you know, crystals and that whole realm of things goes against spirituality. And it really doesn't. They really work hand in hand together. And that's what her brand is about, is showing you that this is not something that's separate from. It is something that you can use in conjunction with your spirituality to just really help you take a mindful moment for yourself and just breathe. You know, so it's a self-care box. It includes an eye pillow that you can heat or cool to kind of help you relax. It includes like a starter bag of crystals that you can carry with you in your purse. And really, it just helps you deal with like anxiety or moments when you're not feeling quite well. You know, you kind of learn what the crystals do, and you take those moments to help ground you. There's also a lot of other things in the box, but I won't go into all of them because but check it out. We only have a little bit of time, but make sure you guys check it out.
No, Precious, you know, we've had her on the show, and I've actually worked with Precious personally for mental health issues as well as professionally. She's really the jack of all trades, but her specific passion to help us be more mindful is so important. We just learned that a very close friend of ours, that his daughter committed suicide just in the last few days. And, you know, these are people who are very progressive. They are very, you know, they are spiritual. They are, they're activists. They are smart. They're a great family. And yet still they lost their child to something that folks generally would say, well, no, if you have it together, suicide won't be an issue in your family. And that's so not true. And Precious has been trying to help us understand that we have to be able to get rid of these negative thoughts in our mind that says, if you sit with yourself, if you meditate, if you use your crystals, if you use your sage, that you're crazy, or that you're weak, crazy, and wicked, because those are some of the things.
Wicked.
So shout out to Precious.
Shout out to you, Precious.
Yes.
One of the other brands that we have that's been actually one of our very, very popular episode is called Canalux. And it's a smoking accessories brand. And the owner of this brand wanted to find a way to get into the legal cannabis industry. And doing her research, her name is Tori Owens. And doing her research, she realized that the licensings were extremely hard to get for Black people, of course, and extremely expensive. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment if you want to do like a dispensary. So she figured out a way to get into the business in a way that was attainable. So she started an Art Deco smoking accessories line, which basically looks like furniture or art pieces or home decor. It's a line of accessories. It includes ashtrays and pipes and things of that sort. A lot of accessories that you can use to indulge. And it's pretty dope, and it has been doing really, really well. And her goal is to use the profits from that to not only sustain her family, but also to save enough so that she can get into the dispensary business, because she feels like, you know, as people of color, we have gotten the worst part of the cannabis industry for so long. So now that it's legalizing and it's becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry, we need our seat at the table as well.
So you can smoke some weed.
You can smoke some weed. And
you
know, her thing is not to feel guilty about it. You know, like it's the time when you feel guilty about indulging should be something of the past.
Indulging. That's her word.
Indulging. But hey, get you a little weed.
For your nerves.
For your nerves, for your mental health, for your self-care, all of those things.
Yes, ma'am.
Another brand we talked about is Black Women's Lives Matter, which
that.
is a lifestyle brand that uplifts and profiles Black women. And then they also have a line of apparel that goes along with that. Super dope, comfortable hoodies and t-shirts. And the owner is Jamila T. Davis, she has a really, really, really good story. If you guys know her, if you don't, make sure you Google her and make sure you support that business as well.
Black Women's Lives Matter. Listen, I don't have one of my sweatshirts on today. If you go back and check last week, I had on a green sweater that said, I love being a Black woman. And I went in my closet and just happened to find these green Uptowns. And I was like, super fly. Like, you know, all of my Black Women's Lives Matter sweatshirts that I have, t-shirts and sweatshirts, they're real moments. When I'm walking the streets, when I, you know, fix it up with my whatever, your little skirt, your jeans, your whatever, it's a high-low option and it's fly and fashionable, but yet it has a message that we can get out to the world. And so I support Black Women's Lives Matter with everything.
And it's a silent statement. And they also have a tribute shirt to our own Tamika D. Mallory, which is their #1 seller. So make sure you guys check it out and cop it.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, get it.
It's okay to wear a sweater that says something that is positive about Black women. You can't wear the one that says I love being a Black woman, because clearly you're not.
Definitely.
However, there are others.
JT,
but you know, and that's a conversation, because even sometimes I think about it and I make myself do it anyway. Like when I'm going to certain places, I'm like, do I want to be walking through the airport in Texas, you know, with an I love being a Black woman sweatshirt? And it's like, if you even have to think about doing that, that's even more reason why you should do it. Yes.
Good point.
Tell Jamila I need my package. She's been sending me a package for like a couple of weeks. I ain't get my package.
I just got this for Christmas.
Everybody got their package except me, JT. What's up?
What's next, LaToya?
Okay, next up is Rhythm, which is mother spelled backwards. We love Rhythm because it is a lifestyle brand for moms that on the weekends, you know, you have to be a soccer mom or a basketball mom, a weekend mom, we like to call them. And a lot of times you got to be on the go, right? And so you still want to look cute, or even if you have to go to like a game after work, you don't want to necessarily show up in your suit, but you still want to be cute and fashionable. So Rhythm is a lifestyle brand that creates really cute, stylish pieces for mom that are comfortable, functional, and easy to throw on and still be cute.
So I wore this, my
finally
dope vest the other day with some silver. I don't know what those are called. My son, what are those sneakers called? I wear 2 different kinds of sneakers. I wear Air Max. I have some all silver Air Max. I had this on with a little white sweatsuit, and I was cute, honey.
Cute. And the thing is that she has a lot of loungewear and streetwear, but she also has pieces like that, you know, would be considered casual, that you can wear to work and that you can wear to the office or wear to like a business meeting or something like that. So she's really good. Check them out. Rhythm, mother spelled backwards. So it should be easy to remember.
Yeah, go and get some father. Rather. You know?
Listen. I see collaboration happening, my collaboration.
Yeah, we have to tell Ayana.
Maybe it could be a collaboration. No. We got Danish. Danish is the other version of Rhythm. That's the dad version of Rhythm.
Cool.
Okay, next up we have one of my favorite products. It's called Shampoo Time Matte. This is actually an innovative invention, patent pending product that was developed by a mom that has a beautiful daughter with a lot of hair, and shampoo time was just horrible for her. Like her daughter would cry, and it was something that she was dreading doing. You know, she would go weeks without washing her daughter's hair because it was just such turmoil. So she created a mat. The mat kind of fits on your countertops so that you can comfortably recline into the sink like you would do in a hair salon. And then it has a piece that you put over it, which is easy to put together. And you can attach an iPad or iPhone to it or Android. And so the kid is entertained while washing their hair, and they literally forget about it. I saw the mom hit me up and said, you know, I have an invention. I want to know what you think about it. By the time she went to text me something else, I had already ordered one, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have this, because I was having the same problem. It literally took off like hotcakes because it's a product that sells itself. Any woman of color, biracial mom, you know, of a biracial child that sees this product is gonna buy it in 5 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah, because listen, getting your hair, first of all, Getting our hair washed when we were kids, it was abuse. There should have been, somebody should have been locked up for the way that we were treated to wash our hair. They didn't have a mat. They didn't have all this new technology. You had to stick your head whichever kind of way in that sink. And if you didn't, bop right to your forehead.
You can't breathe. The water's in your face. You better not cry. Just drown.
It hurt. And so I love that product. When I first saw it, I don't have a daughter, but when I saw the product, I was immediately like, oh, I know everybody is going to want to purchase this if they have a daughter, especially a young daughter, and they have to wash their own hair. So I love that product.
She launched in April of the pandemic, and by the end of the year, she had already made $250,000 in sales. That's just how great the product was. With no pay, she didn't pay for any advertising, any marketing, just word of mouth, and people seeing the product and love it. It's definitely a hero product.
Absolutely, love it, love it.
Until Freedom was one of the products that we featured this year, and that's a product that gives back. So. Part of activism is being able to have money to do the things that you guys call on them to do. When you say, I want you to fly to Texas or Alabama or Mississippi or Boston or wherever to come help me and my family, it takes money to do that. They have to have income to be able to fly to these places, to hold rallies, which could sometimes cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. In order for them to activate, they have to have the finances to activate. And we always like to say that you guys should invest in Until Freedom. A way to invest in Until Freedom is to support their business, which is the Until Freedom merch, which is a collection of really, really fly streetwear and loungewear that is comfortable and is fashionable and it's great quality. And it gives back. That money goes directly to Until Freedom to help them with all of the things that they do for us every day.
Cool. Until Freedom. That's what I'm talking about. I love my Until Freedom sweatsuits.
I love my Until Freedom stuff too.
Yeah, I'm wearing them with heels. I'm wearing it, dress down, dress up, and people are loving it everywhere I go. Folks want it. And, and I think also it is a message. Until Freedom means something, whether you're a part of the organization or just being somebody who's out here in the world that says until freedom, we're fighting, until freedom, we out here, we exist. So, if you want to support our work, as LaToya has said, do what you can I think what's important is that you get something. It's not like you're just giving your money, just investing in our work. You also get a product in return.
How are you guys surprised by how well the merch has done?
My son is not surprised.
Never been surprised.
He thinks we should do better, right?
And we actually,
my son just lives in faith. He walks in faith, right?
I believe, the cause of Until Freedom itself is something that's so big, and that more people, once they see what it is that we do and acknowledge and understand what it takes to do it, they're going to want to be involved with it. But I just also feels like our symbol, the clothing itself is something that people like. I like it. I don't really like a lot of stuff, and most people that actually have our clothing like it. So I was like, this is something we need to focus on. So I'm definitely not surprised, and I think it's gonna go up this year.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter too, because people usually ask like, "What's Until Freedom?" Then you get to tell them all about themselves and why they need to buy it.
That's right.
So we are continuing this for 2022. If you are a business owner with a real business, meaning you run your business right, because the one thing we don't want to do is feature a business and then get our DMs and emails flooded because we recommended a business that didn't do right by the customers. If you have a viable business, DM the @StreetPoliticians DM, and we'll tell you how you can submit your business to be featured on the show.
Absolutely. So to your point about promoting businesses that don't take care of their customers properly, that's something we have to talk about. We often try to kind of like hide certain things, right? We we want you to support Black businesses. So we don't really want to talk about the negative experiences that people have. But I have to talk about it because the truth is the truth. There are businesses that I have tried to support and the customer service is trash. The way you're treated, Also the time in terms of how you receive your product, like people who are really slow at getting their product out, the way the product comes, how you can't get in touch with people. It's a disaster. Like, and by the way, and that is just for products, but services like going to a salon to get your hair done, having to wait for hours and hours on end, you know, people canceling appointments, thinking that they are more important than you when you're the one paying for the service. There's so many things. I have a young lady who does nails. She is incredible. I would put her up against whoever, you name it, Cardi's nail, it doesn't matter whose nails. She can't be on time. She just cannot be on time. So as a brand manager, how are you encouraging people to tighten up the business?
I think that is the foundation of building your business and really branding, right? So when you talk about building a brand, and that's why I always say that we're looking for brands. We're not just looking for people that have like a side hustle, because I don't think that they're looking at the brand as something that's scalable and that's going to be around for a long time when you talk about building legacy businesses, and that all of those things matter, that the packaging matter, the shipping time matters. Being transparent with your consumers and letting them know it's going to take X amount of time to receive a product before they buy is going to save you a lot of headaches. So I think that with social media, right, I want to say there's two things that have helped us as a culture gain power and be able to gain wealth, right? And one is hip hop and one is social media, because social media allows us, and hip hop allows us to gain a lot of influence, and then we're able to monetize that influence. So with social media, you have direct access to consumers, and you're able to start a business. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're making 7 figures in their business. They don't even have a tax ID number, right? So we have to go back to the ground floor with them and really give them the fundamentals of starting, launching, running a business, and just creating a sustainable business model so that you have repeat buyers and you have return customers, because you can't sustain a business if everybody is a one-time customer. You need customers that's going to come back again and again and again and recommend you to their friend in order for you to get to a point where that business is something that is going past the point where you're making 6 figures. Because that's one of the things you always see, all of these stats that says Black women are starting businesses faster than any other demographic. However, a large percentage of our business, I want to say like 80-something%, don't get past the 6-figure mark. They don't exceed making more than $100,000 a year. And the reason why is a lot of the things that you're talking about. But with that, I would say that people should give small businesses a little bit of grace too, because they're not Amazon. Amazon is a beast, right? That is a multi-billion-dollar empire that can get you products in a day. A small business is not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to get you products, especially a business that's starting out, that's in their first year business. They're not going to be able to match up with Amazon. So it's unfair for us to want to deal with them that same way. Same way we wouldn't go to the Amazon page and leave a customer service question in the DM. You shouldn't do that to a business either. Like, they may not have the capability to respond to you in a DM, you know? So I think that it's twofold. Number one, the business owners need to really go into business wanting to run their business like a business. And then even if you started, and there has to come a point where you realize that in order for me to sustain this business, I kind of got to do some homework and do some cleaning up, and make sure that you communicate that to your customers. Customers love good brand story. If you're transparent with them and you say, I messed up, you know, I know it hasn't been the best, but these are the things that I'm doing to make it better, and I want you guys to stick with me. A lot of times those customers are going to appreciate that and stick with you.
That's
awesome.
a fact.
Good information. Well, I think I want to start a school that, you know, I have a thousand ideas, but
you got that too, boo. You got that $1 million too, boo.
I want to start a school that focuses on customer service and also cleanliness, right? Like I go to so many restaurants and places and just in general, and just be like, why can't we just do a little bit better? And I think some people just have never learned. They don't, they think that they can treat their business the way that they treat the conversations that they have with their friends. And actually you can't. And there is the challenge of taking your friendships into a professional realm. Yeah. So now the way in which we were when you used to just, you know, hook me up with some hair on the side, I don't want to be treated the same way when it comes to now your prices have gone up. Now I have to come to a salon. You're not just doing my hair in the kitchen sink. So you're supposed to treat me a certain way. And I, as the customer, should treat you a certain way as well. And I think there's not enough conversations about that happening where people can check themselves, both the customer and the provider. So I think that's something else that you should include in your Bond brand management sphere.
Tamika's School of Great Customer Service. And I will say this, if you can make Tamika Mallory happy,
what'd you say, my son?
You don't gotta worry, because her level of excellence is gonna be top notch. If you get her as a happy customer, then you're gonna be good, you know. But I think that's okay.
You gotta do it consistently, because she'll be happy for 5 seconds. She'll come to a place and go, "Oh, this is nice, it's nice," and then she'll come back and be like, "I don't like this place anymore. It's dirty. I seen a little roach."
Don't say little, my son. Don't say.
No,
little.
I'm the same way though. I'm the same way when it comes to stuff like that. And the thing is, the good thing about it is that when you do get good customer service, like when I go somewhere and it exceeds my expectation, like this cabin, for example, it was better than the pictures. Like they had Le Creuset pots in the kitchen, you know, like everything was like 5-star, top notch. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to come here every time we got a break, because it's the service was that good. When you exceed somebody's expectation, you're gonna get a lifelong client, and that's worth you putting the extra effort into making sure that they feel appreciated and that they get good service.
Yeah, and that's why I said to my son, don't say little, because I don't look at it and be like, oh, it's one little thing. It's a whole experience. And also, I do not feel that I should have to spend my money for people to bring me silverware that has food left over on it, glasses that has someone's lipstick on it. I don't want to have that. That's not fair to me that I have to drink and eat behind the customer before. And there is a way to make sure that that's not the case, because other people do it. So you have to figure out how you do it as well. It's a little extra work. It may require you to have a different type of, spend more money on a solution or whatever. But to your point, as a customer, I'm coming back and I'm bringing the village along with me. So thank you, LaToya Bond.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here. Once again,
for being here in front of my son. No, but my son, that matters. But I will say that it's the going with the expectation, right? If it's not a 5-star place, you can't expect 5-star service. Tamika might disagree with that, but the service at a 5-star hotel is going to be different from a 3-star hotel, and a real true 5-star hotel. And I'm going with that mindset. Like if I know we got to stay at a Hampton Inn because that's the only place in the area, you might find it here on the floor in the bathroom.
The sheets should not be dirty. No, I don't accept.
The sheets can't be dirty, but you might find it here on the floor in the bathroom.
I don't even accept that, because I know that there are some places that they don't do that. I think we should not ever be okay with dirt and things not being clean. Now, I understand if that means you don't have like a kitchen where you're able to do 24-hour room service. I understand if the furniture is not, freaking
up to date,
and you don't have, what you call it, frette bed sheets and I get all of that. But it being me going in the shower and having to deal with somebody's leftover hair, that's not okay with me.
Yeah. So cleanliness should be the basics you say.
For any situation.
Got it. Yeah.
Thank you. We love you.
Love you too.
Love you, Toya. Peace.
I don't know why you always want to try to diminish or make fun of me when I say that things need to be clean. I just don't get it. I'm confused. I don't get it is my issue with you today.
I don't get it is your issue with me.
Yes.
I don't even get it. I still don't get it. It's not that I try to diminish. I just think that, like I tell you all the time, I was in jail, right? So my expectation and my tolerance for certain things and understanding that most time shit is not going to be what you want it to be is different for you. So I don't think I have as high expectations as you do, right? So especially if we go to places where just regular places, most of these businesses and things we go to that's somewhere in the hood or not in 5-star areas is because they're operating off a shoestring budget, right? So a lot of the people there are not being paid well enough to do all the things that you think or believe they're not being paid. They're not saying like they might be working at this job for 2 or 3 weeks and quit. You know what I'm saying? They're constantly trying to find people to work. They don't really have, most of these people don't really have job stability, especially if you're looking through the pandemic right now. Most people ain't even working inside of the, into the industries that we talking about, like, hotels and eateries and all these things. So my expectations is way different than yours, but yours has always been this way. It's always. So yeah. I mean, that's just who you are. So I think my life experience and your life experience have us looking through different lenses. And I'm not mad that you do it, but for me, it's not that serious. I'm not trying to diminish. It's not as serious for me as it is for you.
What I'm saying is, first of all, I didn't grow up I didn't go to prison. So I appreciate that. But I grew up in the projects, which is its own little prison. And I stepped over pee and all kinds of nastiness and crack vials and everything on a regular basis. But my mama kept the inside of our house clean. She didn't have the mindset that just because we lived in this environment that it meant it was okay for the buildings, for our apartment to be run down. And I know your mama keeps her house clean. So the fact that you went to jail should not be an excuse for people not providing cleanliness and positive attitude when somebody is spending their money with you. I don't see that. And I think in line with this whole conversation that we're having today around racism in America and how do we get to the next level, we as Black people are going to have to raise our standards. If our cause is going to be more economically focused, where we're going to look at how do we strengthen our businesses, how do we become, we have to have an excellence mindset that even with a little bit, right? When I went to Haiti, even after an earthquake, roads all broke up, streets split open, no food, famine, all kinds of issues. Every single morning when we got on that bus, we would ride through towns where people had their children, hair bows together, clothes looking neat. Every single day, those kids were going to school on the way, cleaned up, even though they might have to go around because the street was split in their neighborhood. It's something about having a level of excellence about yourself that we will have to take with us. We can't just tell people support our businesses. We have to also have a mindset of good customer service and not diminishing somebody or making it seem like somebody like me is crazy because I'm asking for a certain amount of service when I'm committed to giving you my money.
Well, I think it's in different regards, right? I think we all hold different things at high standards, right? For me, it's about respect, right? I think we move around, y'all tolerate more disrespect than I do. Somebody can say or do something that I have very zero tolerance. And y'all like, nice, relax. That's not that serious. And for me, I'm saying, no, it is that serious. People shouldn't do this. People shouldn't do this. So the way that you feel about cleanliness and you giving your money, I understand. I'm just saying that's not my pet peeve. We all have different pet peeves and we all seek a level of excellence in different fields. I think for me, the way people talk and the way people treat you and the way people handle you is way more than if something, a fork got food on it. I can wash that off, right? I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if somebody.
It's hella disrespectful to have to eat and drink behind somebody else. But you also don't seem to really get upset when people are nasty in a restaurant. You be like, oh man, I'm just hungry. Like, is the food good? So, so is it respect?
I don't think I have expectations in these type of industries, right? And in those regards, I just think my expectations, but in my personal life and close proximity and people around me, there's different expectations of certain things. So I don't think I have the same expectations of those things. So we can agree but disagree, because I get it. You have a standard for certain things that you like, and I have a standard for certain things, just in different areas.
Cool. Well, again, I think as we go into this next conversation, we need to be thinking, while we understand all the things that's wrong with society, we also have to take an examination of what will help us to grow and be more stable. And I think one of those things is this idea that we have to walk with excellence in mind. And I'm not just talking about business owners. I'm talking about even me, even in the way that I communicate in the things that I do, we have to have a level of excellence in mind. So I think that brings us to this next interview. And I'm about to learn some stuff. Like, I'm all about 2022. I want to be learning and filling myself with information and just getting stronger and being able to speak from a higher level, and that comes from learning from people like our next guest.
Well, let's get to the interview.
So on January 14th in New York and LA, something really, really important is happening. A documentary that has been produced by our next guest will be coming out, really digging into this issue about racism in America. Now, there are some of you who will say, why are we still talking about it? Either we know racism exists, or they'll say there is no such thing. We had President Barack Obama, so racism doesn't exist in America anymore. But I think we are from the mindset that if we do not constantly revisit history, and not just history of yesterday, but history of what is happening in this moment, that we will lose sight of the direction that we need to be traveling in. We have to constantly remind this country, this nation, remind ourselves as Black folks, remind white folks of their history, and also others who are looking in and participating in our society of what is happening, and also make sure that our children are raised in a world where they know the truth. They know the truth about themselves, the truth about oppression, and again, that we all take on the cause and the courage to fight to change it. And so our next guest, Mr. Jeffery Robinson, has produced a documentary called Who Are We? A Chronicle of Racism in America. And he's also the head of the Who Are We project. And we are really, really grateful for you being with us on Street Politicians today. We want to get into this conversation and learn about your project and why you actually decided to put a film like this together.
Well, thank you for the introduction. And it's very interesting because it's actually who we are. A Chronicle of Racism in America,
and the Who We Are
project. But even coming up with that title was something that took a lot of work, because you kind of said, we can say, oh, we all know about racism. What are we still talking about it for? And the fact of the matter is that's not really true. And if you think about America's reaction to the murder of George Floyd, and put the fact that it was on videotape and everything like that aside, but when people heard about it and people were just so outraged and so shocked, it was like something like that has never happened before. And I'm not talking about Eric Garner 5 or 6 years ago. I'm talking Emmett Till in 1955. I'm talking over 4,000 Black people who were lynched, documented lynchings between 1870 and 1955 or so. So not knowing history allows you to think that a problem that you're facing has roots that only go back a couple of years. And so when you try and deal with those, what I'll call young roots, you think you've solved the problem. And then 5 years later, it's the exact same thing. And everyone's wondering, why didn't this work? And it doesn't work because we have never addressed the root of the problem going back to the beginnings of America. So who we are is a statement about the truth about American history. It's a question about who we are really as we think about the good and bad of our history in America, and who we want to be. And that last one about who we want to be, you can't get on the path to who you want to be as an individual or a nation without coming to grips with who you are in the moment.
So that's a very good point. And it brings me to a question that I have. We've been hearing a lot about critical race theory lately. And there's this big, argument whether it should be taught in school, whether kids need to know. And based on what you're saying, it would be an atrocity for us not to teach about the history of America in its totality. So why do you think that white people seem to be so against racial critical race theory in schools and actually just admitting that racism is even a part of America?
I think that, like anything, difficult conversations make people afraid and reluctant. If you can think about the most difficult conversation you have ever had with someone who is close to you, and think about how long it took you to bring it up, how nervous you were about talking about it, and then take that on a much grander scale. What we are talking about here, in my view, is the power of narrative. The narrative of America is an incredibly powerful thing. We are talking about our origin story. We are talking about things that have been fed to all of us since we were literally, coming out of the womb. One of my favorite bands has a line that says, it's in my honey and it's in my milk. It's like, this is how the narrative of America has been fed to us. And that narrative is a narrative of equality, of heroism, of a problem with slavery, but the Civil War solved that. And then there was the Civil Rights Movement and everything's fine. We elected Barack Obama. And letting go of that narrative, a narrative that you have been fed since you were an infant, is really hard. So, let's just accept that when you are challenging a narrative that has taken 400 years to build, don't be surprised if people get really frightened when you start shaking some of the foundation of that narrative. But I think people then say, well, I don't want my child to feel guilty, and I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to get blamed for something that happened 150 years ago. One of the things that I think it's so important to understand here is that critical race theory is a law school curriculum. It has nothing to do with teaching history. Conservative think tanks came up with a strategy to call everything about the history of anti-Black racism in America critical race theory, and then to attack it as critical race theory. And you can go and find the people who wrote about this. So why would a parent of a fourth grader be screaming at a school board meeting, "Don't teach my client critical race theory," when it's not being taught?
Right.
What we're talking about is fear. And so the way I would start this discussion is simply, with any parent from any political view in America, can we agree that we should tell our children the truth about history? And if the answer is yes, then we don't have a problem. Because now it's just about telling the truth. And if we go and look at what has been hidden in plain sight in all of our historical documents, The truth is undeniable. Look, America has demonstrated, and I said this in the film, America has demonstrated its capacity for greatness again and again and again.
I heard you say that.
And America is one of the most racist countries on the face of the earth. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. And until we reckon with the latter part of that, we are not going to move to who we are, who we want to be, who we claim to be as a country. So I really think it is fear of a difficult conversation and fear that the narrative in America is going to change.
No, but I would go a step further in saying, because you said that if you are close to someone, it's difficult to have a certain type of conversation. I would say also, if you know you have wronged that person, if you know you have done something to hurt them, it's even harder to go and sit and have the conversation. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is a level of guilt and or acknowledgement that we have done something, but not only have we done it, we haven't corrected it. Still to today, we have not corrected the wrongs of our ancestors, and we don't want to have the conversation. To your point, we don't want to have the conversation.
I think you make a really good point, and it's really important because when there is this element of guilt or responsibility, that makes it doubly harder. And the other point you made is there is the acknowledgement of what happened. And nobody alive today owned an enslaved person. Nobody alive today was supporting slavery. But what have we done about it? And one of the reasons that I think some parents get upset about their children being taught this information is that Johnny and Susie are gonna come home and they're gonna say, Mommy and Daddy, did this stuff happen? And what did you do about it?
And what did you do about it? And what is our role?
What are you doing about it now?
And what are we exactly? And why do you call Mexicans this? And why do you still say nigger behind closed doors? And why do we have such and such in here working in our home and being treated a certain way? Like they don't, I mean, the conversation could go so deep that they don't want to have it at all.
That is the fear. That is the fear.
But the reason why we fight, we tussle with this question of power, right? Because people will say, oh, Black people can be racist as well. And we argue all the time that is it's a shaky road, if you will, because we don't have the power. Well, I'm just saying.
Bias, maybe. Yes, we can have biases.
Bias.
And that is, I just really believe, like, as a lawyer, one of the things I learned is you can't say there was a crash. Do I mean two cars? Do I mean a car and a motorcycle? Do I mean a car and a person? So you have to be explicit in your use of language. Racism is not the equivalent of prejudice. I can be the most prejudiced person in any room I walk into in America. But in America, I cannot be a racist.
Unless
because
I have
racism
power.
Is prejudice plus social power plus legal authority. That's racism. And that's why these forays into, well, I don't have anything in my mind and my heart, so I'm not a racist. I don't have racist thoughts. So I don't have any, everything is fine. I don't have to do anything other than that. And that reduces racism to these individual prejudices, and that makes it too easy. That's why people want to say, oh, well, that couple of those people are prejudiced and they're the problem. No, that's not the problem. This view of mistaking individual prejudice and making it the equivalent of racism is why some people would say, the way you solve the George Floyd issue is by passing a law that says police can't kneel on someone's neck. Now we've solved the issue. And there are a lot of people who think that that kind of law would solve the issue. But of course, it won't, because that's not what killed George Floyd. That was the physical mechanism that choked the life out of him. But that's not what killed George Floyd. So once again, this limited view allows you to come up with quote unquote solutions to a problem that will never solve the problem. But you walk away like, you know, hey, I did a great thing. I passed the No Chokehold Act. Like that's gonna change something.
That's a real thing. We have conversations about that all the time. So there's two things. First, I want you to tell us, or give us a synopsis about the film. I seen one part when you were talking to this guy, and I think he had a Confederate flag, and he was talking about how it wasn't slavery because they treated them like family. They treated slaves like, and when I was listening to that, and I seen your face, and you just really was looking like, are you really like serious? So I wanted to just give us a description of the movie, tell us about it, and tell us what did you, during this documentary, what did you find that even shocked you? Like when you were searching for things, like were there things that you found that even shocked you?
Well, I think that to understand it, back in 2011, because of some family circumstances, I started reading about what came to be the history of anti-Black racism in America. And I tell people, this isn't to brag, this is to make a point. I've had one of the best educations in America. I graduated from Marquette University and Harvard Law School. And in my 50s, I started reading stuff that I had never heard before about the history of anti-Black racism in America. And I was shocked. And as I started finding more and more and more information, that led to a 3-hour presentation, that led to people seeing it, and that led to this film being made. But the film is more than just the presentation of these facts that I found. The film is involved with going out and interviewing people who are witness to the history that has been taken from all of us. One of the things that we wanted to do is to confront the issue about the cause of the Civil War. And I did a presentation, this 3-hour presentation in Charleston, South Carolina, and a woman came up to me at the end of it and she said, you know, there's some guys on the waterfront every Sunday in front of a Confederate soldier monument, and they're waving Confederate flags, and you should come down there for the demonstration. That was Thursday night. Friday and Saturday, we did everything from go to Mother Emanuel Church, where Dylan Roof slaughtered 9 people. We went to a plantation and saw how our ancestors lived and were treated. We went to the Charleston Slave Mart Museum, where I saw shackles that were made for 3- and 4-year-olds and whips that had nail heads embedded in the leather in order to tear the flesh. And I was sick, and we were leaving Charleston the next day on Sunday, and Sarah and Emily Kunstler, the directors, went down to the waterfront and they called me and said, Jeff, you've got to come down here. This guy is willing to talk to us. He signed a release. And I think that was an important thing, that I was sick. And as I think back on it, I wasn't sick with like the flu. I think I was just sick from everything we had been seeing down there. But I got myself down there, and so my energy was lower. And I think that helped me stay calmer. And I'm glad that I did, because I wanted to talk to this man and to have him explain to me what his view was. And I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I've been trained to cross-examine witnesses. And so I just listened to him, and I wanted to try and reflect back to him how ridiculous some of the things that he was saying were. And so when he first started talking about moral tariffs, he's talking about, I think the name is MORRIL. It's the name of a law. And some people hear it and they think, is he talking about more tariffs? And it's like, no, it's moral tariffs on crops that enslaved people were essentially responsible for producing. And when he started talking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, that was cotton, tobacco, and rice. And so one of the things I'm doing is telling him, I know this history just like you know it.
Mm.
And that took him back a little bit. And he didn't want to talk about that anymore, because now we were talking about the fact that enslaved people grew all those crops.
Wow.
And so taxes on those crops to the north, all of a sudden, that doesn't seem like such a strong Southern issue. And that's when he pivoted to, well, we treated them like family.
Mm.
And I just wanted him to admit that I couldn't own him and treat him like family, and that it would be okay. And you could just see the wheels in his head turning. And I thought, if I yell at him, which is what I wanted to do, that's what he's expecting. And now I'm just another Black man who's, having an argument with a guy with a Confederate flag. And how many of those have we seen?
Wow. But so you feel like this film is one that white people can watch and feel safe learning about themselves and the history? Or do you feel like it's still going to be such a trigger that they may just the wall comes down?
One of the things that I wanted to do in the way this film was presented is to try to address the issue that you just raised. Number one, I'm not looking to make anybody feel comfortable. I'm looking to tell the truth. And the truth is what the truth is. What I have learned as a criminal defense lawyer is, if I come and tell you the Constitution was filled with advantages for white supremacist slave owners, I can say that to you and you may react one way or another. But if I give you the facts, here's what this provision said, here's what this provision said, here's what this provision said, then you have to deal with it yourself. That's and so right. Just like that guy with the Confederate flag, I said 100% of these crops were raised by enslaved people. He wanted to fight about that. So I said, okay, 95%. And he had to agree because he knew that was true. And so if I say to someone, did you know that the 3/5 clause in the Constitution, that wasn't just about making sure that the Constitution reflected that Black people were not considered full human beings? That was about the Electoral College. Because what 300,000 Blacks in Virginia, you multiply that by 3/5, and that gets added to the population. And then when you go down to the next provision in the Constitution, it says the number of Electoral College votes you get is dependent on your population. And that's why 9 of the first 12 American presidents were from the South, and 7 of them were from Virginia. And then you see where slave owners are given specific protections. So as opposed to telling you what to think, what I'm trying to do in this film is giving you the facts and saying, you come to the conclusion that you think these facts bring you to. And the conclusion, quite frankly, is not escapable.
Is the film for children?
Absolutely. It's a PG-13 rating. And what I would say is, this is not a film that I want to send my 5th, 6th, or 7th grader in to watch by themselves, but to watch with their parents. Absolutely. And I have had conversation with kids in middle school, with kids even younger than that, about these issues. There are very, very difficult things that are shown in this film. And so the PG-13 rating, I think, is very helpful. But this kind of education in age-appropriate ways is completely important. And I think one of the best things I've seen about this is everybody knows the iconic picture of Ruby Bridges, maybe at 6 or 7 years old, with her little briefcase walking into a school surrounded by federal marshals so that she wouldn't get killed. If she had to understand about racism at that age, white kids that age can learn about it. So this whole concept of, oh, they're too young, that is absolutely false. And one of the things, the Who We Are Project, and this is a not-for-profit organization that I've established. One of the things that we're going to do is to work with experts so that parents and pre-K teachers can start to talk to kids at a very early age. And how can you do that? You can do it all kinds of ways, just by starting with the concept of what's fair. Give 4 lollipops to 5 kids and the girl with red hair doesn't get one, and ask them if that's fair. And they'll start telling you at 3 years old, of course that's not. This is this is that. You can start teaching kids about concepts before you get into the actual history of anti-Black racism. I'm not saying you teach that history to a first grader, but I am saying that we think our children at a very young age are not being taught about racism, and that's just a fantasy. Our society is teaching them, and the way you figure that out is you go to the most liberal Montessori school in America, and the kids will self-segregate in the lunchroom in first grade. Social Studies found that for decades. Why is that? They are learning something, and they're learning it from us. So the issue is not, will your child be taught about racism? Because the answer to that is yes. The issue is, how is your child going to be taught?
Wow. I want to ask you one thing before we go, because I can sit here and ask you a million things.
Me too.
You're very insightful, and you've seen to break it down. There's 2 things I want to know. Do you believe that we can eradicate racism in America?
That's a great question.
And if so, or if not, what do you think is the biggest threat to Black America's future? What do you think is our things that we really need to focus on if we're trying to evolve and progress and move past a lot of things? What do you think?
I think that I think the answer to the first question, can we eradicate racism, not just anti-Black racism, but racism in America? And the answer in my mind to that question is, I don't know. The answer is uncertain. But what I can tell you is this: we have never in our entire history addressed our racist underpinnings and origin story. We have never addressed the issue, not just going back 5 or 10 years, but going back to 1619. And people say that was colonial America. Well, when they had the Constitutional Convention, all those colonies brought their riches from slavery and dumped them on the table. And people said, double down, we are keeping this going. We have never addressed this issue by looking at the entire history. So we are doing something today in this decade, in this century, that we have not done before. And that gives me hope. The other thing I'll tell you is, this is January 6th today. 1 year ago today, we all remember what we were looking at. And I'll guarantee you, those people think that racism in America can be eradicated because they're scared. They are scared of what will happen if the truth is taught. It's just like that fear about critical race theory. People are afraid, oh, the origin story is going to be shaken. I'm going to have to acknowledge that while I've had struggles and overcome burdens as a white person, I walk through this world completely differently than the Black and brown people I'm walking right next to, and that has to change. So the people that are screaming at school board meetings, the people that were in the insurrection on January 6th, they're scared. And they're scared because they see the possibility of radical change occurring. And that's one of the things that I think is really important. We are literally at a tipping point. And a tipping point in a country with a 400-year history is not a moment or a year, it's a decade. We were in this tipping point at least by 2016, and we are in the middle of it now. So what we do over the next 5 years is critical. And to your specific question, what area should you focus on? There are two things to me, and they are interrelated. One is the economic health of the Black community, and the other is voting. And the two things are inextricably combined with each other. Why do you think that there is so much effort to keep us from voting? Because people understand that the Black community can have a huge impact, not just on congressional races and Senate races, but on local races, as well as races for the national offices. So I think voting is a huge, huge issue. And when I say economic impact, the thing that will give us the clearest view of that is HR 40, the bill in front of Congress right now to create a commission to study the issue of reparations for slavery and the vestiges of slavery.
Mhm.
And this is where the history comes in, and then to make recommendations to Congress. And so those are two things that I think are examples of areas where in the next 5 years, America is going to have to reckon with a lot of difficult things. And for me, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 5 years.
What is that? What are you going to do?
We're gonna need some insight in that.
Yeah.
What I'm going to be doing for the next 5 years with the Who We Are project is making sure that everyone in America has access to our true history. Think about all those states that have passed these anti-CRT laws. Do they really think that a classroom is the only place where students learn? Have you seen 13 through 17-year-olds walking around America without a cell phone in their hand? And so we can get this history out to people so that they can confirm it themselves. They can go to state historical societies and find the original documents where our founding fathers are saying horrific things. And once you confirm it yourself, knowledge, I hate to say this in the time of COVID, but knowledge is like a virus. And once it starts spreading, it's really hard to stop it. This is the last thing I'll say on this in terms of the impact that knowledge can have, and why the Who We Are project is going to spend the next 5 years trying to make sure that youth, community groups, and corporate organizations and government organizations are all made aware of this history, because being aware of the history is what will take us to this different place. So that's where we're going to be focusing our efforts in the Who We Are project.
Wow. Thank you so much.
So much. We really appreciate it, man. You are a wealth of knowledge. I definitely look forward, just after watching the trailer, I definitely look forward to watching the movie. Everybody should go out and get it. Let them know where to be showing.
Thank you very much. But first of all, thank you for having me. And I really appreciate the chance to have this dialogue. And if you go to our website, thewhoweareproject.org, there is a section for the film and a section for the project. And one of the links is you click on it and it will show you a map of America. And then you click on the state where you think you're going to be, and it will show you all of the dates where things are going to open. So it's in New York and Los Angeles next weekend, but then it's going to be in Washington, D.C., and Chicago, in Memphis, in Tulsa, all over the country. So that's probably the best way, is to go to our website and click on that map, and it'll give you the places where it's going to be screening in your area.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. We cannot wait to be able, to talk about the film, to make sure that people have an opportunity to see it. I think it's so important for it to be accessible, but it will take all of us to push that info out there. So we're committed to that. And again, we appreciate you for coming on Street Politicians.
Yes,
thank you. And let me just say, if there is anything else that I can do to support the work that y'all are doing, please let me know, because I appreciate what you're doing. And this is part of why I do have optimism, because this stuff is getting out there. And when it does get out there, people go, oh, I didn't know that. And at that moment, that's when they're willing to try and think about something different. And I think we can bring about those moments. So thank you for the work that y'all are doing.
Congratulations, Jeffery Robinson, attorney, writer, producer, and the Who We Are project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, King. Dope interview, man. Really dope. You know, I think the ironic part is how what LaToya was saying about supporting Black businesses and just the whole segment, and then how Mr. Robinson said that is going to be one of the essential things for us to move forward is Black economics. You know, so it's all on point, it's all connected. You know, we have to be very intentional about being entrepreneurs, creating economics, creating generational wealth, you know, and I think we're on the right path. He said it. He said how in the last 5 years, you know, what we've been doing about exploring and holding accountable and talking about the, you know, the history of America and putting it in plain sight so people can see it has never been done. He said, we've done everything else but that. So that's going to have a different effect, you know, and he was honest. He doesn't know if we're ever going to see the eradication of racism in America.
Right, but, you know, as you said, two really, really strong things that tie directly together. Some people, and I think there is another element that we have to introduce into the conversation as well. You've got one thing, which is LaToya Bond saying we have to support small businesses, support Black-owned businesses and other people of color. You have, as you said, Mr. Robinson talking about economic empowerment. And then there's the protest component where we should not be spending our money with certain businesses when they don't invest in our communities. And I think when you put those three things together, and of course, education, we will be able to, you know, to really teach our young people, because it will be the next generation that is going to be they're so in tune with buying sweatshirts from their friends. You know, they're so in tune with going to get their facial done from their homegirl. Now we just have to be able to bring it all together and let them know you could go to the spa. Of course, you could go to a white spa downtown, but you could also go to your homegirl spot and get the same type of service. And that brings me back to the point about why it needs to be quality service. But anyway.
Well, that kind of brings me, you know, just the whole racism and Black and all these things brings me to, you know, I don't get it. You know, earlier I think probably was last week, there was a conversation, and you know, I've been critical about a lot of these bloggers and on-site, you know, individuals that just came out of nowhere, got famous, somehow just talking on the internet, and somehow they had some level of credibility. Now this one site I've seen, you know, I talked about how, you know, they had DJ Academics on there and he was cursing some Black women out, calling her all types of names, calling her bitches and all type of things because they had a difference of opinion, and he just started really being disrespectful. But there was a conversation where they were talking about a website or some type of site where you can go on to date Black women. It was called Black. And these two Black men, one black, and another, you know, more my complexion Black individual talking about how they don't date Black women and stuff, and not just don't date Black women and say, well, if you want to go date Shaniqua or Boom Keisha, that's on you. You know, we don't like the dark meat. We don't really engage in that. You know, and for me, I just don't understand the mind state, right? It's two things I don't understand. I don't understand first, how do we give people with that low vibration mind state any authority to continually impact and affect and dictate our culture, right? I don't even understand how, because they've been toxic. Like I watch And the thing about it is this show is filled with always Black women at the table. There's Black women are sitting around and they're having these conversations and whatever. This show has been pretty much made of mostly Black women that I've seen, the shows I've seen. And then I don't get the mindset that even comes, how you just get comfortable with saying something like that. I don't even understand how if you see how Black this man is, I hope we have a clip of it. You know, when you see how Black and dark this one guy is, he said, "Oh, we don't do the dark meat." Like the self-hate that has to come with that. Mm-hmm. You know, the self, how much you don't care for yourself, to understand that your mother is a Black woman, understand that your grandmother's, understand the history of your whole existence is a Black woman. And for you to say that so freely is as if it's not embarrassing, as if it's not something that you just to even think that you should be ashamed of. You know, I just don't get this mindset. I don't get where we are in this culture and altogether is where we just have gotten comfortable with less. We've gotten comfortable with disrespecting ourselves. We got comfortable with allowing people who don't even value us to dictate what this culture looks like. You know, and it was real confusing to me. I heard a lot of people, you know, say things about it. I've seen a couple of people, Joe Budden said something about it. Roy said something about it. It was a couple of dudes, you know, that had said something about it. And it just really, it rubbed me the wrong way, you know, because this was the second situation where I seen the violation of a Black woman on this podcast.
Mm. I mean, I don't have anything to add to that. I think that, you know, the first point you gave was the most important. It's like, will we as Black people, and of course, led by Black women, well, I mean, maybe led by Black men, say that we no longer support the show. That's it. It's really simple. I'm not trying to deliberate on why they said the things they said. And in fact, I didn't give it any of my attention because we already know what type of content is coming from that platform. It's not just that platform, but it was another show where they were on there talking with some young guy about, you know, robbing people. Like this is becoming a thing. And we talked last week about the cultural awareness, that the shift that has to happen, and how you and others are really trying to lead that, you know. And so I think we already know that being an enslaved people has done a doozy. Like it's a number that has been done on us that it's really scary. But beyond that, now it's going back to the previous conversation. People need to understand that just because, so for me, I didn't click it to watch it because I don't even want to give ratings to whatever services or, you know, whatever sources are providing the content. I don't even want the views on the Shade Room, Ball Alert, or whatever to go up because I'm another person who has listened to it over and over and over again. Because your clicks equal money. Like your clicks equal resources. And there are people out there that will invest in something like that because it's controversial, whereas they won't necessarily support something that's on the, you know, the Shade Room, Ball Alert, all of these, the Jasmine brand, all of these sites. They try to also post some things that are different. Not like that. I'm not going to say positive or not or whatever, because this is not about that, but just different. And the clicks and the numbers for those things may not be as strong. And so we have to understand that the more we listen, the more we engage, the more these people become hot to those people who don't care nothing about our communities. All they care about is throwing that little advertisement on there so that they can get more eyeballs.
Subscribe.
Right. So they can get more eyeballs. So it's up to you, you know, what you want to see. What is it that, you know, we as street politicians, we're trying our best to give content that is not just talking about, you know, we talk about Black love, we talk about relationships, we talk about all of that. And those episodes do well, and that's great. And because it's things we care about, it's information we want, it's the world we live in. but we also try to talk about things like, bringing someone like attorney Jeffery Robinson on. And the question is, it begs of itself, will people actually listen and download that content? Because it's actually going to help educate you and move you in your life to a better place. Or are we just going to focus on the trash that, who's sleeping with who and who's doing what? I'm not saying I don't like that stuff. I'm not saying that I don't also, I'm not going to say like, but I'm not saying that I don't also listen to and watch, what you call it? What do they call it? Guilty TV or, guilty internet surfing. But I spend more of my time invested in things and listening to people who educate me. So.
Yeah, I hear you, but I can't, for the life of me, I can't invest in anything that degrades me or destroys me or demoralizes me. And I don't think that we should at any point be okay with that.
We can have this debate another day. The show is over, but I will say that I don't agree with that. I think that it depends. It depends on how you look at it. Because all of us, we know every episode of Power, we know every episode of BMF, and we know every episode of everything. Harlem, The Godfather of Harlem. We do watch things and are invested in things that a young person could be watching, and it could actually be impacting them and making them do things that are not good. That's
but that's that right there. See, that to me, that's a lazy argument, because right. If you in your home, if a young person is in your home watching Power and you're not educating them about, hey, this is entertainment and this is based on, what do you mean?
If you're 17 years old with a parent that may not be in the household, or maybe, or maybe working all the time, you think that 17-year-old, the parent is monitoring them watching?
It's Power? Not even monitoring. If you're a parent, then by 17, you parented your child enough for them to be able to differentiate between entertainment and non-entertainment. Because if you look at the biggest supporters of, quote unquote, the gangster rap and all that, it's not really Black people. White America has grasped it mostly, right? And they not out here shooting and robbing each other.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, that we could go down the whole rabbit hole, but here's the deal. All I'm saying is, Little Kim, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion. I listen to every single one of them. I love it. I twerk to it. I'm into it. But I also understand that there are components of that if not, to your point, guided properly within a young person, a little girl or whatever, it could go the wrong way. And they'll tell you that. They will tell you like, yo, don't bring your 2-year-old to listen to me on my live or whatever when I'm talking. So I'm just saying that we all indulge in things for our entertainment that, depending on which way it goes, it can be harmful. It can be. However, there are certain things that I think I do agree with you, that's more real life. Like, it's real life. It's not entertainment. It's real life stuff. And so that's where it is a little different. But that's another day. We should actually do a show on that.
Okay, that's a show. Entertainment versus real life.
I like that.
And with that said, another dope episode of Street Politicians. We truly appreciate you. If you have topics that you want to hear, let us know. If you think we dope, let us know. If you hate us, let us know. Just let us know.
Don't let me know if you hate me.
Man, tell me you hate me. I want to hear it, because I am fueled by love and hate. I'm fueled by both. So if you hate me, I have no problem hearing it. It's not going to change me. It's going to motivate me to be just even a better person. So please let me know. #1 show, Street Politicians. We #1, baby. 2022.
We on our way.
We coming for that crown for your ass. 2022. Like I say, I'm not going to always be right. Tamika Mallory's not going to always be wrong. But we will both always, and I mean always, always, always be authentic.
Peace.
Salute.
That's how we own it.